You know that feeling when you're cleaning, but nothing actually gets cleaner? You move a pile from the counter to the table, and then from the table to the desk, and then maybe it's a pretty little basket that sits next to the floor for the next 3 weeks. The problem is it feels productive, you're in motion, but actually nothing is changing. That, my friends, is clutter shuffling. And it looks like progress, but it really is just clutter with frequent flyer miles. So today I'm going to help you break free from that cycle. We're going to talk about why clutter shuffling happens, the sneaky mistakes that keep us stuck in it, and most importantly, what you can do to finally feel on top of your home and your brain. Now, if we've never met before, my name is Robin. I am a former emergency and wound care nurse turned decluttering coach, YouTube creator, and I am the mom to 3 boys. All of that while running a business from home. So for years, I was constantly overwhelmed trying to balance work, family, and a house that always felt one step ahead from total chaos. And I started simplifying out of pure survival. What I discovered is that clutter is not just about stuff, it's actually about energy, focus, decision fatigue, and systems that either support you or completely drain you. And now I help other women, especially those juggling a home business, clear the mess, calm the chaos, and finally to build systems that make life and home feel manageable again. So let's get to what is clutter shuffling and why do we do it? Clutter shuffling is the act of moving items without really making a final decision about what to do with them. We think that we're doing something, but a great sneaky little gremlin in our brain is actually just causing us to waste our time and our energy because it does not want you to make a decision. So you're tidying, sort of. You'll pick something up and you'll think, I don't know where this goes, so I'm just gonna put it here for now. And then if you go ahead and multiply that by 50, congrats, you have got clutter shuffling in action. The problem though is we're not actually dealing with that stuff. Sure, you might get rid of a little bit of garbage, maybe a couple of t-shirts that you got for free, but really not much is happening. You're not organizing with intention. We're just relocating the overwhelm. So if just imagine trying to rearrange the chairs on a sinking ship. That's what we're doing when we're clutter shuffling. And we do this for a lot of very real reasons, very human reasons. So let's get to the first, and that's emotional clutter. Sometimes we pick up an item and it can bring guilt, sentimentality, or decision fatigue, and you just don't know what to do with it. So you move it. Another thing could be you don't have a clear home. This is so common, especially when, you've got full cupboards, full closets, and maybe at Christmas, I always just think about all the stuff sitting under the tree where people don't put it away, and it's because they're like, I don't know where I'm gonna put this. So if things don't have a clear designated space, they float. Counters, floors, chairs, they become way stations for undecided stuff. Another thing, very common, is ADHD or executive function overload. Even if you don't have ADHD, and in my house, 4 out of 5 of us have been diagnosed with ADHD. Actually, my eldest son moved out, so he took that with him. But if your executive function is being overloaded, so let's say with your phone, then you're feeling overloaded, that can really affect us. And clutter shuffling is just a coping mechanism. It feels easier to push things aside than to just sort and decide and act. And another big one is that we confuse motion with progress. You're moving, therefore it must be working, right? And I want to quickly touch on some of the traps that can keep us stuck in the clutter shuffle, some mistakes. So let me know if you have done these. The first, we mentioned it before, but that was when things do not have a home. Let me know if you're dealing with the clutter shuffle. You've got your tax receipts, you've got your tripod moving around. The second thing, organizing before decluttering, buying the bins, setting up labels, organizers for your desk, creating systems all before letting go of what you don't actually need. That's like alphabetizing garbage, and you cannot organize clutter. You cannot. You have got to remove the problem first. Declutter first, then organize what's left. It will make it so much easier. Another thing is too many bins and not enough boundaries. You might start a system, but it's unclear. And now you have 3 places where you might store extra cords and none of them are labeled. So you rebuy what you already own and then the mess grows. And it's like, imagine you're climbing up a mountain and you just stop halfway and you're wondering why you're just like looking at trees and you can't see the view. It's because you didn't finish the job. Another thing is waiting for the perfect time, the perfect system, the perfect method. This is so common is people get stuck in perfection. They're even like, what is the right charity to take this to? What about this one thing? Should I recycle it or should I donate it? Just make a decision. You say you'll tackle it after your next launch, after the kids are in school, after Q3, but the clutter is stealing your time now. Perfect is just procrastination, wearing a cute outfit. And really, perfect is a complete myth and it is a lie. Another thing is just tidying instead of deciding. I mean, I am just a fan of stacking things up just as much as the next person, but when you are constantly shifting things around, what you're actually avoiding is making a decision. You move the receipt to the drawer and then into the tray, and then somehow it's back on the counter. That's not organizing. That's just avoidance with extra steps. And I want to quickly touch this part. So maybe you have tried to declutter and you've started and you've made a little bit of progress, but somehow it didn't last. The piles have come back, the systems fell apart, and now you're back to shuffling. Here's why that happens, and none of it means that you failed. Number one, you made progress, but not a system. I am the biggest fan of systems. You're going to hear me talk about it constantly. You cleared a space, yay! But then you did not set up a way to keep it that way. And my cat just looked at me like, what are we celebrating? You've cleaned the kitchen counter, but never created a mail system. So the papers came back. Girl, there's a solution to that. Another thing, maybe you've decluttered your office, but you didn't decide where the charger cables, notebook, or files would live long term. It's once you are like, oh, okay, so this needs a home. There isn't a home. We need to create a home. Sometimes we have to remove stuff from that home, declutter it, and then this stuff has a home. Because without a system, cleared space is just a blank stage for the next pile. I'm going to tell you, sometimes I like the kitchen. I will like get it nice and clean and I'll have it like ready because I want to like make a pie or something. And then lo and behold, what happens? Somebody comes along, teenager, husband, and they're like, look at this perfect spot for me to do my thing. We have to be careful about our white space. We need to have homes for everything so that the white space doesn't get taken up. The second thing is you expected one big effort to fix it. This is so common. You are like, this is the weekend when we are gonna do it. You poured a full day into organizing, but it didn't stick. You've got your big pancake breakfast. Maybe you've invited some friends over, but it didn't work because honestly, decluttering isn't a one-time event. It's a shift in how we live and make decisions. Now, don't be overwhelmed. I can totally see why you would be, but we don't need to be overwhelmed and think, oh my gosh, does this mean I'm like going to constantly be decluttering? No, it's basically like how we brush our teeth every morning or, brush our hair at night or something like that. It just becomes part of the routine. And when you're a busy woman running a household and a business, it's not about doing it once. It's about creating systems that make it easier forever. It becomes like clockwork and it just makes everything flow. It makes thinking easier. It makes creating easier. It makes spending time with your family easier. The third thing is you have tried to be perfect instead of consistent. Now, this is a different area of perfectionism than what I've talked about before. And it might be you plan to color code your whole house. You wanted the perfect baskets. I mean, I get it, right? I'm so grateful there's no Container Store where I live in Canada, and maybe anywhere in Canada, I don't know. But maybe you're one of those people who just is obsessed with your label maker. And you can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, you've got this vision of what you want. But then life happened and the perfect plan never got finished. The thing is, you don't need a Pinterest system. You need a system that works when you're tired in a rush or on back-to-back Zoom days. Something that you can fall back on. Are you noticing a trend? And the fourth is you felt guilty, overwhelmed, or defeated. You've paused making decisions and the emotional weight kicked in. You'll be thinking things like, I spent money on this. I really should keep it, or I've already spent time on this one thing. Maybe it's like, say, a cross stitch or something. I mean, I don't know what I would do in that situation, but maybe you're like, this could be useful someday. What if my partner notices that I donated it? So instead of letting it go, you moved it again. Instead of having that conversation with your partner, I'm not saying like go ahead and declutter their stuff. That's not a sign that you can't do it. This is just a sign of decision fatigue and that you need support and not shame. If you have started before and slid back into shuffling, you are not alone. And this next section, we're going to show you how to go from temporary progress to lasting calm. And not just a cleared space, but a space that stays tidy because you have finally made the decisions to set up the system. So let's walk through exactly how to do that next. And before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here because I know how we all can be, and I can be just like this too. You're not behind. You're not doing it wrong. You're just missing the systems that actually support the life that you're living right now. So once you stop trying to force your life into someone else's routine or system and build your own, because I'm going to teach you how to build your own, you'll finally feel like you're not failing. So here's what to do instead. This is how we make progress. We're going to start by decluttering one small area, maybe a drawer, a shelf, a single surface. And we're going to say what actually needs to live in this space and who are the neighbors going to be. Next, every item has to have a home. Just as I said, you might put it on that shelf or something else. No more for now spots. And now you know I was going to say systems because it's not enough for it to look neat. We need to have a system that actually helps me put things away when I'm busy, tired, or distracted, so I know what's coming next, so my family knows what's coming next. Now, I have a method, a system for how I declutter and organize every single space and how I create systems. And this is how I do in my whole house, how I tackle every area, how I tackle my business, how I tackle my files, how I tackle my emails and my downloads and everything. And the first is we're going to triage. I was an emergency nurse before, and before we could tend to a patient, we had to triage them. We need to be like, are they alive? Are they breathing? Because if they're not, that's number one. We got to work on that. And you're going to do that with your space. You're going to step back and assess. So before you start touching stuff, just pause and ask, what is this space actually for? What isn't working here? What keeps landing here that doesn't belong? So you might be like the end of the kitchen counter. I'm looking at my kitchen and I can see a bag of chia seeds there that I didn't put away. Good news is they have a home. But you're going to look at that area and say like, why does stuff always land here? So in my case, yes, the end of the kitchen counter, stuff always lands there. I'm going to get to that in just a second. And then we're going to ask ourselves for this one small visible area, a drawer, desktop, shelf, like the end of the island, get clear on its purpose. What is the purpose of this? This is where we're going to stop playing Clutter Tetris and start playing CEO of your space. So I'm going to say the end of that island, that's actually where work should be happening. And maybe stuff goes there and that's where we look for stuff. But how do we keep it clear? It's like clearing your inbox. You're not reorganizing your emails. And we're going through that. We're deleting the junk. We're filing the few that actually matter. We're determining where things go. And later, we can set up systems for how our inbox is actually tackled. And yes, that email from 2017 about essential oils can finally go. And you probably could let go of the oils that came with it too. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay, the next step in my mighty method, so we got triage. The next step is simplify. We are going to clear the clutter. You have now determined what is the purpose of that space. So we're going to remove anything that doesn't support it. So don't keep things just in case or for now. Quite often people are concerned that they're going to use something in the future. And I just love to say, I love the method. It's called the 20-20 rule. If you can replace it for less than $20 in less than 20 minutes and you don't use it, you should let it go. And I get flack from people sometimes for this. And they're like, well, I'm not rich. And I'm like, the point is you're letting it go and you're probably not going to buy it again. That's why the less than $20, right? And if you let go of like 500 things, if you only have to replace one or two, you're ahead of the game because you have less stuff cluttering up your space. So say it's your junk drawer and you're like, oh, I just feel like I need this. Wouldn't you like that drawer to be empty? What is the purpose of that drawer? The purpose of that drawer is where the pens are, where the scissors are, all of that. So we're going to let go of extras. We're going to let go of duplicates and stuff that you haven't used since that one Pinterest phase. We've all been there in 2014. And ask yourself, do I use it? Do I need it? Do I love it? In the case of artwork, do I use that? I mean, I look at it, but I love it, right? I keep it for that reason. Or is this thing just living here rent-free, stressing me out? Clarity lives on the other side of fewer decisions. Oh, don't you just love that? And spoiler, so does your missing measuring cup, probably. Step 3 of the Mighty Method is to organize, give everything a home. So you have already decided, like looked at your space and been like, why are things collecting here? And what do I want this space to be like? You've decluttered. Now everything that is staying needs a consistent and logical home. No more mystery piles. No more, I'll just put this here for now and figure out when I'm a better person. And like I have mentioned, you know, you might have cupboards that are full. I always think of this one lady that I worked with. She was one of my very first clients. And she was just like, I just don't have anywhere to put stuff. And it never occurred to her that she could declutter. And once I was like, girl, you can just like let stuff go. You can declutter. You can make space for your stuff. She was like, oh my goodness. And then everything had a home and she was just so happy. Something is still sitting on your counter 4 days later. That is not its home. If that is, it's squatting there, and that's your sign that you need to make a home for that thing. So think about how and where you use things. Store your business receipts near your laptop, not next to the blender. Keep your shipping supplies with your packing tape, not the linen closet behind the beach towels. Maybe like if you film videos like I do, you keep them all in the same spot. I have all of mine in the same spot. This is called point of performance organizing. Fancy words, which is basically put it where you actually use it. And in your kitchen, for example, I have my big like spatulas and stir spoons. I'm like, what is wrong with me? All of those are right next to the stove because if I'm like, I've got to stir this thing, it's right there, right? All of my tea stuff is by the kettle. Step 4, girl, this is the Thrive section. This is our system. So triage, we are assessing. Simplify, decluttering, organize, and then thrive. We are creating our sustainable systems. Organizing isn't the final step. We need to maintain it. So we need to ask ourselves, when I'm deciding on a system, so for example, the end of my kitchen counter where things tend to collect, how do we make sure that that area gets clear? And for me, in my house, what we do is usually once in the morning, after everybody's eaten breakfast, before I go to work, about 10 meters away. And before I go to bed, I make sure that the end of the island is clear and any other hot spots, which is where things tend to collect. That's my system for that. And part of my method is who does the thing, right? So that part of the system is me. What has to happen? Something needs to be picked up. When is it going to happen? Morning and night. And how is it going to happen? Maybe in some circumstances you need to grab a bag or a basket or something for whatever it is you're doing. So I can't tell you what systems you're creating. My specialty is helping you to go through the whole method for how to do those things, which is why I've explained it to you. And I have a free download that you can use as a cheat sheet. So how to assess your system is you're going to ask yourself, will this work when I am exhausted? and I have 17 tabs open and someone just spilled yogurt on the dog. So perhaps it's like dealing with how you organize your G drive or even something in your kitchen, how you meal plan, whatever, because that's the real test. It's also helpful, depending on what you're doing, is to use clear labels. We also want to avoid the miscellaneous bin, which is like the Bermuda Triangle of your house. We used to have one, I'll tell you about that. And you want to make it easy so even your kids and your partner can figure it out. And sometimes I will just be like, gosh, why do people still do this? And it's like, because we haven't discussed the thing. And at the very least, your family hopefully will just say they didn't know where it was with slightly less confidence, because let's be honest, they should know by now. And a space that looks great on Instagram but falls apart by Tuesday morning, we don't want that. That's not a system, that's an interior design cosplay. Systems should be simple. When I say systems, I mean routines, I mean habits, and we want it as simple as possible. We don't want a ton, right? We just want things that keep everything moving from your home to your business, just through logical steps that make every next thing easier. I want to tell you a quick story from my own home. So for years, I actually had a bin that was mentally labeled miscellaneous. I remember exactly where it was in this house. It was up. I had to grab it like this. It was in our old house. And this bin, everything lived in it. Everything I didn't want to deal with. And girl, I also had a junk drawer. This one had receipts. It had headphones. It had broken headphones. It had birthday candles, old birthday cards, empty dead pens, random bits of plastic that I thought might be important if I could ever figure out where they actually belonged, eventually to fix the mystery item. I didn't even know what was broken, why I had that broken plastic bit or that screw. It looked organized, but it actually was just a junk drawer in disguise. And every time I opened up that cupboard to look for something in there, I was like, I'm telling you, the birthday cards are what stick out in my mind the most. But once I finally emptied it, and made decisions and gave every item a home, it was awesome. The whole kitchen felt better, calmer, cleaner, easier to maintain. And the more that I stopped touching the same items over and over again with no result. Let's be honest, clutter shuffling is sneaky. It feels productive and it looks like effort, but really it just burns time. It drains energy. It's just like, where did this time go? Have you been doing this for 5 years or 2 months, 3 months or longer? Like seriously, it keeps you in a loop where nothing ever feels like it's quite done. But there's good news. You don't need bins. You don't need a 6-hour deep clean. You just need to start thinking like a systems builder, not like a stuff shuffler. Use my mighty method. Grab the blueprint from below. Triage, simplify, organize, thrive. You've got this. You don't have to do it alone. If you want custom help creating those systems that support your home and your business, give me a shout. I will help you find things that work for your brain and your schedule and that hold up when life is messy. And I would just love to hear from you. So if you want to hear about that one-on-one coaching, you can reach out. You deserve a home and a life that feels manageable, peaceful, and yours. So stay tidy and mighty. I hope something great happens for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.